Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for One Piece chapter 1035. When we last left our heroes, the Sanji Queen fight led to a stunning climax. It's probably my favorite Sanji chapter post-time skip. Just my humble opinion. As Sanji, in this great bit of sort of accepting his past, his family, but also realizing that he is definitively not his father. Realizing he definitively did not hit the courtesan several chapters ago, that it was actually Queen, because there's this whole history with her and Queen, as Queen's been kind of after her since Komurasaki supposedly died. But that means that Sanji never hit that woman. This newfound Vinsmoke power is not, in fact, leading him to abandon his ideals. He is still Sanji before he is a Vinsmoke. And that knowledge, that strength, allows him to tap into that Vinsmoke powers without losing himself and bring out a new attack, Ifrit Janbei, that he uses to, I hope, bring down Queen. That was such a great climax. I don't really think there's a better way Oda can end that fight. So I hope that's the end of the Queen fight. It, as is the case with all Onigashima fights, is not entirely clear if that's the end, but I sure do hope it is, because that's just such a great ending. So with that, let's dive right on into chapter 1035, Zoro versus King. Also on the topic of, is the Queen fight over? All of those Tobiropo fights we saw with Who's Who and the Black Maria fight, I think, also did this, and I think the Sasuke fight might have also had that X versus Y structure and ended their fights. And then we had Sanji versus Queen, and now Zoro versus King. This could be the end of all of those fights. This is the last chapter of the year, so next year we wrap up Wano fairly early, by like March or April maybe. I don't know. Anyway, the big news here, though, is that we have a new cover series. For the first time in, I think, around a year is when the Gang Beige story ended. We have Germa 66 in Escape Whole Cake Island. I'm curious how well this is going to go over, if I'm being perfectly honest. Given just the particular status Germa 66 in particular has among the fandom, they're not really seen as like the other villains who get this treatment, people like Buggy or Helmeppo or like Gidatsu and Skypiea or CP9 or Baroque Works. They're all they're either like kind of fun or they're sort of entertainingly evil. Whereas the Vinsmokes are seen in a much more serious light. They're seen as kind of deeply abusive. And I'm curious if Oda's going to be able to make them work even as a kind of cover story villain protagonist. But we'll have to see. All we have here is the fleets of Germa fleeing Whole Cake Island in the aftermath of that arc. And with all that, let's finally dive right on in. We open right where we left off, with Sanji dealing that climactic Ifrit Janbei kick on Queen. Queen is sent flying, knocked out of his devil fruit form, is sent flying out of the roof of the Skull Dome. We see the horn on the Skull Dome far, far below him. And Sanji just stands there watching. And yeah, that whole page is very definitively, there is not a doubt in my mind that's the end of that fight. And what an incredible ending that was. And Osome is watching that in kind of a panic. I think she might still not know that it was Queen who hit her and not Sanji. And so she's still sort of, my stalker was there and then my attacker saved me. She's still kind of in a bit of a panic and looking for her mouse. Looking around, and Sanji finds it and hands it to her. Osome declares, "Chuji? Oh, Chuji, you're all right." And Sanji tells her how to tuck him away, out of danger. Oh, did Sanji find him earlier? I have a vague memory of Sanji finding a mouse earlier, but I can't quite recall. And Osome tells him, thank you. And Sanji smiles as he flashes way back to his past in Germa. Which, again, weird time to start a cover story with Germa as the protagonists, when you have this flashback of Sanji's horrible treatment at Germa, as he's like feeding this mouse, and some people announce, check out the failure. He's cooking food for rats again. And Sanji just turns to her, but are you all right? And he finally, just the sheer damage he took during that fight knocked him over. Osome notes, oh! And we have the narrator, Battle of the Pleasure Hall, Left Brain Tower, winner, Sanji. There we go, that fight is over. Sanji has definitively won, meaning the only enemies left in Onigashima are, unless I'm mistaking someone, Kaido, of course, the Fire Spirit Kizenbo, Big Mom, and King. And if this chapter ends King, then we just have the two Yonko and whatever Yamato is going to end up doing with Kizenbo. Anyway, if somebody calls, someone help! We need a medical kit! Then we come outside, back where, or outside for a moment and then back inside, because Zoro, now that his blades are infused with Conqueror's Haki, seems to have gotten some kind of hit on King. I highly, highly doubt it's a definitive blow. But that slash opens up like the lower corner of King's mask. We can now see, instead of just like a single eye, his nose, his mouth, not quite this part of his chin or any of his face. But he's definitely taking some serious damage. And I know I got the email from Shonen Jump, right? I subscribed to that newsletter. And it said something about Zoro finally learns the frightening secret of King or something. So I'm guessing that's what this is all leading up to. Him destroying King's armor and learning a bit more about King's truth. But anyway, Zoro notes, I was right. When the flames on his back go out, he can move a little faster. But his defensive ability drops in response. Okay, that's an interesting thing. After last chapter, I was sort of comparing the Sanji Queen fights and the Zoro King fights, because there's a lot of, in both fights, Zoro and Sanji have to kind of find themselves in order to get stronger. But I did find Sanji's a lot more compelling. Zoro's is a lot more, am I strong? How do I beat this guy? It's all in battle tactics. And if you've been watching my videos for any length of time, you know I'm here for that character work. And that's what Sanji brought in spades. And what the Zoro stuff isn't really delivering, though we'll see how this chapter all plays out. Anyway, King rips off his mask. We get his full face now. And there's not a whole lot to say about it. Like, he's got this sort of like long, light-colored hair around shoulder length. Got what looks like a scar going down his face. Though that might be a cut that Zoro just made. It seems to be right where Zoro cut him, but it also looks already stitched up. I don't know. Don't have a whole lot to say about it. But anyway, Zoro looks back, acknowledging that King has torn off his mask now, and the Beast Pirates all react. Oh, Master King took his mask off, and the Beast Pirates all look at him. So the rumors were true. Black wings, white hair, brown skin. What was the reward for tipping off the government? 100 million berries? Okay. So, because there was, I'm trying to remember, we've learned a little bit, Queen mentioned something about the Lunarians before, right? That they were supposedly, they lived on the Red Line. And given the Red Line is now occupied by the Celestial Dragons, maybe that's part of the drama there? That the Lunarians sort of pushed off of the Red Line. And now the world government, with their love of keeping a bunch of secrets, want to just off them all before any rumors get out. I don't know. But anyway, King just turns his flames back on, turns towards Zoro. Oh no, he turns towards the pirates, who are talking about tipping off the government. And they like beg, we weren't. And King just tells them, Imperial, flaming wings. Yeah! And they're like caught up in this like flame dragon that King has spawned, burning up. Yeah! Zoro's like up on like a higher level than King, calls down to him. The castle's already burning down as it is. I figured you'd treat your men better. Zoro continues to taunt. If they're distracting you, why not come up here? Did I hear something about 100 million just for a tip-off? What are you, anyway? I mean, Zoro, you can't really... Given that your captain is one of the 5 highest bounties in the world, I'm not sure you can just call up the world government for some money. I don't really think you can do that. But anyway, King turns back into his pterodactyl form. Nothing that's going to matter to a man about to die. And he flies up towards Zoro, ready to continue the battle. Blasts himself out onto the upper levels of Onigashima, as he's shooting. He's been shooting something at Zoro, I think. And Zoro deflects them all, and then tries to go back on the attack, but doesn't do too much damage. And then I think King's the one who gets an attack on Zoro there, slamming him to the ground, I think. Or Zoro gets some kind of attack on King and then just falls to the ground because he can't fly. I can't quite work that one out, but King is mostly fine. He's still floating. Zoro is still standing, but also kind of out of breath. I don't have much time. If this drags on, the sword will suck the life from me. Oh, so Enma's still draining him. Okay. Even with that Conqueror's Haki. But King tells him, now like unbuttoning his shirt, I can sense the threat you represent. But Zoro thinks, so he's definitely from some kind of special race. But it's got nothing to do with me. And Zoro just continues to breathe heavy and then readies his blades again. Same to you. Your crew has ruled over this place long enough. Time to go. King of Hell, 3-sword style. And he readies his Haki-infused blades. And King responds, don't get full of yourself. Kaido is the man who will be king of the pirates. And we get a flashback from Kaido. This might be our first flashback of any time when Kaido was like younger, like pre-taking over Wano, maybe. Because there's something at least about his outfit, maybe his build also. He seems like relatively short, like he's only 8 feet tall instead of a towering behemoth. He looks younger in this flashback. As Kaido, we see that King is like chained up to some machine. And Kaido tells him, a Lunarian, eh? No wonder the government wouldn't give you up. I saw those endurance tests they put you through. I'm breaking out of this place and starting a new pirate crew. What do you say, guinea pig? So I'm guessing this is like, we don't know a lot about what happened to break up Zebek's crew. But we know that they fell with the combined strength of Garp and Roger and maybe Whitebeard, right? I think at least Garp and Roger, and I think possibly Whitebeard was involved in that, but I'm not. Don't quote me on that. The important thing is, though, that I'm guessing this is after that. The survivors of Zebek's crew were taken to some kind of facility. This looks vaguely Punk Hazard-esque, but I'm not quite sure if Punk Hazard was around this early. It might have been. I'm not sure. Or if it was ever used by the government, for that matter. But anyway, this is sometime post-Zebek's fall, and Kaido becoming a Yonko. And King, in response to Kaido's "what do you say, guinea pig" question, asks, can you change the world we live in? And Kaido grins, I'm the only one who can change it. Okay. So there's an interesting thing there. Because the way this line is framed, Kaido, freeing King from oppression, from, government experimentation, it's very hero. It's very heroic. The vibe of a shonen hero coming in to free the oppressed. But, that's not quite what Kaido becomes. I'm assuming we will have a genuine, definitive Kaido flashback before this battle is over. And that might give us some answers. But it's the first Kaido moment where he's really seemed more than just, an oppressive douchebag. Everything we have of Kaido is him being an asshole to people. And this is the first kind of, he's going to change the world, at least in King's mind, for the better. King has been oppressed for all these years. He wants a better world than what he lives in. And Kaido's at least saying he can grant that. I don't know. Anyway, they break out. Kaido breaks them out. We hear this, the government calling, the subjects have escaped. And Kaido and King are just nonchalantly walking out. What's your name? And King tells him, Albert. You're strong, Albert, but from now on you're king. Stay under my wing. I won't let anyone else have you. So from the very beginning of Kaido's crew, he was working with this, was he already working with the deck of cards conceit that so many of his crew members have? Or was King just meant to be like, Kaido is going to be a god or an emperor or something, and his right-hand man should be a king. I don't know. Anyway, Kaido laughed, "From this day on, you're my right-hand man. Whoa, 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 whoa." And back in the present, King sort of reflects on all that. Right as he kind of dodges, I think it's a dodge more than a deflection of Zoro's attack. "Purgatory Onigiri!" And Zoro knows him, the flames are on. No point attacking now. Alright, because that's when his defense is up. And King unleashes that same attack he used on the pirates, I think. Imperial Flaming Wings! That same fire dragon. Zoro dodges out of the way. That flame is like magma. And then King goes back on the attack. Zoro deflects it with all three of his swords. Alright, but King then activates that kind of like jigsaw puzzle thing that catches Zoro's swords. "Not that again. Don't you dare! You're not taking these swords away!" And Zoro like jumps back with his swords, I guess. And lands. "He's fast." Meaning, because when he's fast, his defenses are down. "I can cut him." Bird dance! And I'm not quite sure what exactly is going on there. Bird dance feels a bit more like a King attack. But we see Zoro has done this sort of horizontal spin at ground level, and there's this gash riding up King's torso. I think maybe King tried to do an attack, but Zoro countered. And King sort of steps back. Notes, "So it seems you figured out the rules of my body." And Zoro tells him, "That's right. Finally envisioning your own defeat." And Zoro goes on the attack, and King is deflecting them all. And Zoro presses, "Why bother to block my attacks? I thought they did nothing to you. Unless you're scared of what I can do." So hold on, he seems to have the flames on. I thought the flames, was it they upped his speed and lowered his defense when they were on, or when they were off? The flames go out, he's faster. Okay, so the flames are up, he's in defense mode. And the flames are off, he's in speed mode. But he has the flames on, it looks like, at the bottom of 14, which means he should still be in defense mode, to cop some Yu-Gi-Oh parlance. But either way, he's still kind of deflecting, like he can be hit, unless you're scared of what I can do to you. And King jumps off the side of the island, flying, of course. "You are biologically incapable of defeating me." And he flies away, and Zoro presses, "There's nothing I hate more than weak excuses." And King is back in pterodactyl form, floating above Zoro. "I'll keep you in my memories, the feisty swordsman you were." But Zoro counters as they runs after King. "I'll carve it into you myself, assuming you survive to remember me." And King goes back on the attack with an even more powerful move. "Extra large Imperial Flaming Wings!" And Zoro presses it head on. "King of Hell, 3-sword serpent, 103 mercies." And he cuts through this flame dragon. "Dragon damnation!" And he cuts right through to King. To be continued. And that's where we leave off for the year. Okay. So first question. Do I think this fight is over? It's definitely not as definitive an ending as the Sanji Queen fight. And we don't have the sort of winner Sanji thing we had for all the Toby Robo fights and for Sanji Queen. So if it weren't for the chapter title being Zoro versus King, the same way as Sanji versus Queen and Jinbei versus Who's Who and so on and so forth, I would say no. This fight is not over. Zoro has the upper hand now, and I'd be shocked if he lost it after this. But I wouldn't quite say it's over. It doesn't quite feel completely climactic. It certainly is not. It does not quite hold a candle to the Sanji fight, just like narratively speaking. Though again, that is my sort of preferences for types of narratives, for one type of narrative over another. Kind of peeking through there. I'm not subtle about my biases on this channel, I don't think. But yeah, this fight might be over. It's kind of a little hard to tell right now. 50-50 it's over, I'd say. But we do get some good shit here. There's that flashback page is so interesting. Because Kaido, like I said, for the first time in this entire series, seems heroic there. I'm the only one who can change it. We all know the world is kind of shit. One Piece very much is sort of dystopic especially in its governmental structures. The world government is kind of this totalitarian state that just erases history if they don't really like it. And that's kind of the same thing. And that's, I imagine, part of why they're after the Lunarians. If the Lunarians were the original inhabitants of the Red Line, the Celestial Dragons drove them out, and the Celestial Dragons want to make it seem like they always lived on Red Line, the Lunarians could just get murdered for that. Possibly. Who knows? But that's my working theory. And again, Kaido seems genuinely heroic here. What we have here isn't like Queen, who is just sort of this mad scientist who assumedly had some reason to work with Kaido, but is largely just sort of, having fun being evil. King is a lot more, back to the wrong side kind of evil. He's not a bad guy. He wants to take down the world government. But he kind of backed the wrong horse. He's backed Kaido, who sort of became a despot. Whether he was always going to be a despot or something happened that turned him into a despot, just like the despots he was trying to fight with King, is a whole other question that I'm sure Kaido backstory might go into next year. But I don't know. Kaido has never been more interesting to me than he is right in this flashback. Kaido's always been a cool, intimidating villain, but he was much more, he was kind of, he's cool and intimidating and really evil, and I can't wait to see Luffy beat him, than he was, I want to get in this man's head. Sorry, I'm talking a lot this video, damn. My voice is getting really, really hoarse. My point is, I really, really, really want to know more about Kaido. Again, Kaido is a character I liked as a villain, but wasn't super interested in a backstory way. That page, just page 10 of this chapter, completely turned that around. I am fascinated by him now. I want to know what happened, what his original motivations were before he sort of became this despot. There's a lot there that I want to see the series dig into going forward. Beyond that, most of the fight is sort of, it's much more in the terms of fight mechanics. Zoro having to figure out how King's body works, more so than the kind of character growth Sanji had to go through to beat Queen, which is again why I much prefer the Queen fight to this, though that is again a matter of personal preference, yada yada yada. I said that half a dozen times by now. There still is fun to be had here. In terms of pure, this will be an utter blast to see animated one day in 2 years when the anime gets this far. It'll be a blast. I am more than willing to bet. And honestly, I don't know. We'll see if the fight's over or if there's still some more time to wring some character work out of this fight. But for now, it's a pretty cool-ass move. It's a lot of fun in a much more turn-your-brain-off way than last chapter's fights. But also, there's plenty of here to really sink your teeth into in a more dramatic sense, in a more lore sense, in a more thematic sense. There are some good, meaty discussions to be had about this chapter's one-page flashback. And also, it's a damn fun fight. So yeah, I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you'll enjoy the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe, do whatever makes you happy, And as always, your life is your own, okay? Bye!